running. Okay, good morning, students. Today is Monday again, October 10th. Okay, this is the last day we're going to be going over our book, The Law. We're going to get started with a new project for next week. Can all of you see my whiteboard that says John 20, 22 to 25? Right now, all I can see is Ethan and Gavin and Adriana, so you nod your head for me if you can see that. Okay, great, thanks. This is an interesting little story in the New Testament. The Pharisees came to the Savior and they wanted to trick him again. I want to ask him these tricky questions. And the question they asked him is it lawful, according to you, for us to pay taxes to Caesar? You know that the Jews at this time were under the dominion of the Roman Empire and were obligated by the Romans to pay taxes to the Roman government. However, there was a strong undercurrent of rebellion in the in the Jewish society in Sanhedrin, and of course they were looking for the time and the way when they would be able to relieve themselves of this oppression, this tyranny by the Romans. And the trick in their question was that if Jesus said, yes, we should pay taxes to the Romans, they would turn to the people and say, see, he's not loyal to our nation. He's a traitor. He tells us that we should pay taxes to the Romans. And if he said no, they would go to the Romans and say, you see, this guy's a subversive. He's trying to overthrow your rule. He doesn't support the government. He's trying to raise up a rebellion and an insurrection against you. And so they asked him this question, should we pay taxes to Rome or not? And in John chapter 20, verses 22 to 25, here's what he answered. Starting in 22, he said, they asked him, is it lawful for us to give tribute unto Caesar or no? 23, but he perceived their craftiness and said unto them, why tempt ye me? Show me a penny. Whose image and superscription hath it? They answered and said, Caesar's. In other words, he said, let's look at the penny. Let's look at this money. And they said, whose picture's on this money? And they said, well, that's Caesar on there. And then he said, render therefore unto Caesar the things which be Caesar's, and unto God the things which be God's. And when he gave them that answer, they were dumbstruck. They were like, oh, that's a really smart answer. And they couldn't think of any way to use that against him, to accuse him either way. But let me ask you this question. What are the things that belong to Caesar? He said, let us give to Caesar the things that belong to Caesar. What is that? If the money has Caesar's picture on it, does that mean it belongs to him? What do you think, Ethan? Kennedy, go.
I think so.
Yeah, it's his money, isn't it? It's got his name on it. So if you look at your money and you see Abraham Lincoln on there, you can say, okay, I guess I got to give it to Abraham Lincoln. Or if you see Thomas Jefferson on there, you see this is the government of the United States, okay? And they say, you got to give us your money. You got to give them your money. How many of you know Article of Faith number 12? Dylan can't get on? Okay. The only problem with that is I have to pause recording. Okay. Carson, do that for me again, one more time, the 12th Article of Faith.
We believe in being subject to kings, presidents, rulers, and magistrates, and obeying, honoring, and sustaining the law.
You read that.
Yeah, but you never said we couldn't read it out of the book.
Okay, so I'll give you credit for being smart to figure that out. I thought you would have that memorized.
I'm using my resources.
Yeah, that's right. This is one of the core tenets of the LDS faith, is that We do not believe in starting insurrections, rebellions, and overthrowing the government. And there's more detail about that in section 134 of the Doctrine and Covenants. And we're going to have a chance to talk about that at some point in the semester. I'm going to use that for our opening discussion because there happen to be qualifications on that unlimited support for the government. You remember that the Mormons have a rather rocky road history in terms of their relationships with the government in times past. There was a time actually when the government said, it is open season on Mormons. If you see a Mormon, you may kill him. If you see a Mormon, you may take his stuff. If you see a Mormon, you may kick him in the pants until he leaves town. Okay? And this was the beneficent rulers of the government that were telling this to them about Mormons. So while we believe in law and order and sustaining there are certain conditions under which we would say, we're not going to do what they're telling us right now because we don't believe in supporting the government by committing suicide. You get that? I mean, if the government doesn't like you, like if you were a Jew in Nazi Germany and the government had decreed a law that said all the Jews have to be killed or exterminated, would you say, well, I'm a Jew, I guess I better kill myself? We do not believe in supporting the government by committing suicide. Okay. Now that we got that figured out, let's turn to a review of our quiz from last week. And okay, I've got Dylan, Minion. Okay, thank you, Dylan. I went ahead and muted your microphone for you since we were getting lots of background noise there. And here's how we're going to go. We're going to go by the order of the videos that show up on my screen, and the first one there is Ethan Kemp. So I'm here on quiz number 4. I think that's the right quiz. And I've got 20 easy questions. I decided to get real easy on this quiz for you. 18 easy questions. Oh, so your denominator is 18 this week instead of 20. Number 1, Ethan, can you tell us what is the freedom of every person to make full use of his faculties, so long as he does not harm other persons while doing so?
Is it liberty?
Yes, it is liberty. Number 1 is liberty. Adriana, one of the interesting things we learned from Bastiat is that Robespierre, who was the leader of the French Revolution of 1789, which was 60 years roughly, or 50 years before this time we're talking about, from 89 to 49, or 59, 60 years, yeah, believed that the way to establish virtue in the people was through the use of terror. What is intrinsically contradictory about this approach? Or in other words, why is that an oxymoron or contradiction of terms?
Because you can't force anyone to do anything like good. You can't force them to do anything. Okay,
that's a correct answer. You cannot force them to be good. You can force them to do good, but you cannot force them to be good, because what a person is determined by their own volition, their own choices, their own actions, their own desires. I can maybe control their behavior by using absolute force against them, but that does not do anything for what they become and what they actually are. Okay? So there is no virtue in doing good because of compulsion. If I force you to be good, you may be doing good, but that doesn't mean you are good. Okay? Gavin, number 3, Napoleon believed that a good ruler will make his people moral as well educated and happy.
True.
True is true. Number 4, and this time it is Jaquel.
Wait, for number 2, What
Yes,
was the answer? True? Is that what he said?
The number 2 is an explain question, not a true-false question. Number 2 is an explain question, not a true or false question.
But he said the answer so fast, and then he said it correct, I think.
Okay, are you still talking about number 2?
Yeah.
Okay, number 2, I'm talking about I can force a person to do good by their actions. But does that mean they're a good person because I force them to only do good things?
No.
Right. So the explanation for number 2 is I can't make somebody good by using force, by using compulsion.
If you, for
Okay.
example, picked a different fallacy, would you be able to mark it correct then?
Say that again, Kennedy.
There were a lot of things wrong with this whole idea of using terror. So if you picked a different fallacy, can you mark it correct?
What fallacy did you pick?
Well, for example, that terror never brings happiness.
Yeah, I used that too.
Terror does not make happiness. That's like saying hitting you in the eye does not make you feel good.
Well, that's exactly right. That's the fallacy in the statement that this individual was making.
Okay, that's kind of a roundabout reasoning. If you think that applies to this question, the question is, why is it contradictory to try to say somebody, I'm going to make you virtuous by using terror? Terror is a form of compulsion. It's threat of violence or actual commission of violence. So do you think I got the right idea? If you think you got the right idea, give yourself credit for that question. I can understand, other people can understand where you're coming from. So they're giving you credit for it.
Thanks,
Okay,
Mike.
what am I up to? Okay, Carson? Okay, Kennedy, did you ask a question? Okay.
I just said we're on number 3.
No, we're on number 4.
Okay.
Number
Okay, what was
3
number?
is true.
Okay.
Napoleon did believe that it was the government's job to make the people happy. Okay, be careful of when a government politician says he's going to be responsible for making us prosperous, well-educated, happy, or anything else. Because the only way he can do that is to take from you your liberty. Okay? So, number 4, Jekyll. This Louis Blanc guy, did he believe that society owes everyone the tools that will permit him to develop himself, such as education and tools of production?
Both.
It's on page 59. You said no?
Yeah.
Okay, let's read this.
He said that liberty is not only a mere granted right, it is also power granted to a person to use and develop his faculties under a reign of justice and under the protection of the law. And so...
So he did believe that.
Well, it doesn't sound like he's saying society's what makes...
No, he's saying that is what the guy said. That is what he thought. He said that's what he said. He said on page 58. Here's Mr. Blanc. He quotes him. He's quoting what Louis Guy said. Liberty is not a mere granted right. It's also a power granted to a person. Okay? This is what the guy said. And so you just quoted what the guy said. And what he said is exactly what the question says. Does he believe that? The answer is yes. That's what the guy thinks. Okay? And you're saying, no, that's not right. I don't think that should be true. But that's not the question. The question is not whether it should be true or not. The question is whether that guy thinks it's true or not. And the answer is true. He thinks it should be true. Okay? So just careful, just slightly understanding the reading of the question. Okay, number 5. Carson, 5A. Bastiat says that Democrats believe in 3 doctrines. What is the meaning of the total inertness of mankind? What does that mean?
They believe that mankind is sluggish, powerless to move, dumber than mud.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
Man has no inherent desire or will. He's just a clump of mud. Actually, we learned last night that being dumb as mud is a good thing. You want to know about that, just ask King Benjamin. Okay. Number 6B, I'm up to this time, Kennedy. The omnipotence of the law means what?
That the law is just and the law is moral.
The law is just and moral, but also more than that, it is all powerful. It can do anything. If I pass a law and say, men shall not fall off of tall buildings, then it won't happen because I passed the law. They'll never fall off of tall buildings. Aren't I great? I saved all those construction workers from ever getting hurt by falling off of a building. How did I do it? I passed the law. Okay, that's the omnipotence of the law. Okay, and number C, yin yang. Number 7, C, the infallibility of the legislator means what?
The legislature can make no bad choices.
Right. They are all wise and all good, and everything they ever do to pass a law is wonderful. Okay, great. And Dylan, number 8. What is the contradiction between the idea of people being wise enough to elect legislators who then pass laws that cause the people to be good and happy? We talked about this a little bit last week.
If they're wise enough to elect them, why don't they just do it themselves?
Okay, great. That's on pages 60 to 61. If a guy's smart enough to figure out how to be successful and happy and run their own life, why do they need to choose somebody else to tell them how to run their own life? That kind of makes sense to you? It doesn't make sense? I mean, why do we need a president to run our economy and tell us how to regulate our trade with each other? Why don't we just figure it out ourselves? Do you think people feel like they're not smart enough to run their own life and therefore they need to have politicians to do it for them? Yeah, maybe they do.
I think that they want like the welfare and stuff like that. So they will vote for people that will give them the easiest way to life instead of actually working for it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's exactly what Bastiat is talking about. Everybody wants to get in on the act to participate in the plunder. Okay, I'm up to Ada Gano here in the peanut gallery. And we're on question number 9. Which of the following liberties does Bastiat say the socialists support? None of the above, right. Number 9, the answer is no, 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 no on all of them. Okay, and number 10, Anna Lee, what is the answer Bastiat received to this question? If mankind is so evil as to be incapable of being trusted with liberty, how is it that the people who make laws are so good? Aren't the lawmakers people too? She said the legislators claim that they're going to fix us or protect us to ourselves. Is that the answer he got to his question? Ada got that the instincts of the people are perverse. Is that the answer to the question he got? Michelle, what's the answer to the question? Quote, page 63, so far as I know, they have never answered this question. That's the correct answer.
Did it say there that they were made of a finer clay? Air quotation mark.
He said that they think that. He said, yes, they think that, but is that the answer they gave him? When he said, why are you so good and able to create just laws when we people who elected you are idiots? And did they say to him, it's because we are made of finer clay? Is that what they said?
I just assumed that that was what you were meaning when you wrote that.
He accused them of thinking that they were made of finer clay. But no, that is not what they said. That's not the answer they gave to the question. The correct answer is, he never got an answer. He never got an answer. They never told him why people were too idiotic to run their own life, but they were smart enough to choose me to be their boss. Okay, Adriana, what does Bastiat demand of legislators who think that mankind is incapable of virtue without the benefit of their laws to direct them?
Proof of superiority?
In one word, proof. Prove it. Do you think you're so smart? Do you think you're the only one who has a virtue or corner on the virtue market? A monopoly on goodness? Prove it. That's exactly right, page 64. Gavin, number 12. Bastiat sees that the power to make laws about everything has with it the responsibility for the happy outcome of everything. He speculates that not everyone will be happy about those outcomes, and as a result, France will be more likely to have what problems?
Revolution?
Yes, revolutions. Page 66 and 67, the answer number 12 is revolutions. And this is exactly what we're seeing happen when people have the power to pass laws that plunder other people. They're going to have divisions in society. And the politicians in our time right now are constantly talking about you're a divider, you're dividing the people, you're pitting them against each other. They accuse people of it, but that goes part and parcel with the power to pass laws that hurt people. Okay, I now up to, go ahead, Kennedy.
So on number 11, I feel like there are many different answers to a lot of these questions.
Well, that's because you want to get a correct answer when there's not correct.
That is exactly correct.
Kennedy, did your mother help you with this test?
No.
My mom did.
Well,
My mom never helps me with my tests. Thank you.
okay. We're not going to put this up to a vote. I'm a benevolent dictator. That means I get to say what the right answer is. And the right answer for number 11 is one simple word. It's just give us proof. Okay, Kenny, that's okay. It's not a biggie. You do not need to tie your self-esteem to a number on the top of a test paper.
Yes, it is, because I have a red personality, you see, and I like to be right.
Okay. Hey, onward and upward. I'm on to number 13, and I'm up to Jaquel, I think. This is a yes or no question. Can you see any evidence in our country today, in our law, in our society today, that everybody is going to blame the government for things that go wrong?
Yes.
Yes, we do see that.
No brainer. No brainer. Have you been watching the news?
Okay, thank you, Carson. Have you ever heard somebody say, they ought to pass a law Whenever they see a problem, they say, why don't they pass a law? And that's exactly the proposed solution for every problem in society, that somebody makes a law. Okay, and Carson, this is your question, number 14. Bastiat proposes that a government that was strictly limited to preventing injustice would be immune to any complaint from the people. Why does he say that would be so?
Because they're limited in their power, people are passive, they think they're incapable of bettering their own lives, they expect things from the law.
That's why the government wouldn't, that's why nobody would ask the government to do anything if the government was limited to its proper function?
Yes.
Because they're passive? Now here's like, let me ask you this. If it's raining today and you wanted to have a picnic, do you go to the government and say, doggone it, I didn't want to have rain today?
No.
Why not? Why? Why not?
Wait, why don't I, you lost me.
Why don't you complain to President Obama when it rains on your picnic?
Because it's not his fault.
And because you know he can't do anything about it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's what he's saying about all these other problems. If I saw that there was ignorant people running around town, and whoever's getting creative on the whiteboard, you need to control yourself. If the government was restricted to being, it's only protecting people from injustice, okay, I had to turn off your microphone, Carson, because we were getting some disturbing background noises. Here's the thing. If you know the government can't do anything about it, you're not going to ask them to do anything about it. It wouldn't even occur to you to ask the government to fix people that were stupid, because you would know government doesn't have any power to fix stupid people. So you wouldn't try to go around and pass a law that says everybody has to go to school. Or you would know perfectly well the government has no power to cure poverty, so you wouldn't go around a law and pass a law that said people are not allowed to be poor. Okay? You wouldn't think about it because you would know the government has no power to do anything about it if the government was restricted to its proper role of preventing injustice. Okay, so that's the answer to the question. Number 14, no one would think the government should have anything to do with solving those problems. That's on page 71. All right, are you with me on that? Kennedy, I'm up to you for question number 15. How does Bastiat answer the charge that if the law did not provide for education, regulation of trade and labor, religion, systems of association or charity, then everyone would become irreligious, atheists, hermits, no friends, ignorant, miserable, and greedy?
A belief in God and their conscience would keep them from that.
Is that what he said?
I'm not sure. It's been a while since I took this test.
Well, actually what he did is, rather than just use logic and reason to answer that question, he said, look at the experience we've had. In places in the world where the government is the smallest and has the least power, what do we find? Are the people ignorant? Do they have problems with trade and employment laws? Do they have problems with religion? He said, no. Those are exactly the places where the people are most prosperous and most happy. Okay, so he said, I asked you for proof that these legislators are omnipotent and the law is so possible to cure every problem. Here, I'm offering you proof on my side of the argument. Okay, and that's on page 74, where government is least, prosperity and happiness are greatest. Okay, that's number 15. Number 16, Ingyan. How does Bastiat answer the charge that he is guilty of the very thing he accuses the socialists?
He says he's joining them to induce them to relax their hold.
Okay, so the answer is true. He said, yeah, you're right. I am just like you in that I am proposing a different solution to the problems. I have my own ideas for how to make the world happy, just like you have. But the difference is I don't want to pass a law to make everybody do what I think. I just want to leave everybody alone. Okay? So he said, yes, it's true that I am like all of you guys because I have ideas for how to make our world a better place. That's true. I plead guilty. But the difference is I just want to leave people alone and let them do what they want to do. Whereas you want to pass a law and make everybody do what you want them to do. That's the difference. Everybody good with that? Number 17, Dylan. What did the traveler say to the savages who wanted to improve that newborn baby child?
You shouldn't go improving people without their approval.
Is that what he said on page 76? Stop! Isn't that what he said? He said stop. No, he didn't say ask that baby for permission to improve it before you go about improving it. He said stop. What God has created is good enough. You can't make it better. Leave it alone. Let it be. Okay? That's page 76. And number 18, Ada. Liberty is an acknowledgement of faith in blank. And his, capital H, gave you the answer to the first blank. To God and his works. Direct quote on page 76. Okay, now, to score your test mathematically today, what you want to do is take the number of correct answers, divide that number by 18, then multiply that result by 100, and put that resulting number on the line at the top of the paper that says score. You want me to do that again? Take the number of correct answers. Say you gave yourself half credit for one question, and you got one other question totally wrong. That means you have 16 and a half correct answers. So you take 16.5 divided by 18, multiply that answer times 100, put that number on the line on the top on the front page that says score. Okay? Okay. For this coming week, our challenge to you this week is going to be to read the first part of a book, the first session that's actually just a speech given by Ezra Taft Benson. Okay, I've got a copy of this right here. It's called The Proper Role of Government. Now, I will email to you a PDF version of this entire speech. And your job this week is to read down to the subheading that says the United States Constitution. Okay? It's going to be up to page 11 of the PDF document that I send you. Okay? Down to that is where the questions will cover on the quiz that'll come out on Wednesday. Everybody get that? Down to page 11 that says up to the subheading, the United States Constitution. Okay. And I'm also going to send you a second document, which actually comes from this pamphlet. This pamphlet was published by an organization over in Boise, Idaho, called, what's it called? Hang on a minute. Well, I don't know what it's called, but it's some organization over in Idaho that thought that this was a good idea to get people to read this book. And so they took President Benson's speech and they wrapped it up in this pamphlet so they could pass it out to people. And this booklet has in it a foreword or an introduction written by Butch Otter. Can anybody tell me who he is? or who he was?
Our current governor.
Okay, he's the governor of the state of Idaho. At the time this booklet was written, which happens to be a long time ago, says copyright 1973, 1975. Butch Otter was not the governor of Idaho. He was a congressman. In other words, he was a representative to the federal government from the people of the state of Idaho to the government in Washington, D.C. Okay, see, so he was a member of Congress. We call him congressman, although I don't think that term actually appears in the Constitution. So that was his job. And they went to him and said, will you tell us some interesting insights about this book by President Ezra Taft Benson? And this suggests to you that Butch Otter is a Mormon. And he is familiar with Mormon doctrine and understands what Mormons believe, and in particular, Ezra Taft Benson, who was the president of the Mormon Church. And we sustained him as a prophet, seer, and revelator. Okay, and President Benson wrote this speech about the proper role of government. Now, as I said to you before, President Benson had some unique insights into the role of government in America in particular, in society in general, because he was a high-level member of the president's cabinet in 1952, where he was appointed by Eisenhower. Dwight Eisenhower, who's the president of the United States, chose him and appointed him to be the Secretary of Agriculture. And at the time, he was serving as a member of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles. I don't think such a thing would happen today, but at that time, the president of the church, who was, I believe, David O. McKay, said to him, yes, he said, accept this appointment. You will be able to be a positive influence on the outcome of events in our nation. So they sent him back to Washington, D.C., even while he served as an apostle in the church, kind of part-time, like a state president or a regional representative would do today. And he served in the cabinet of the government of the United States. He did that for, I think, only one term. Dwight Eisenhower served 2 terms for 8 years, but I think President Benson resigned after 4 years. I think he had it up to here by that time. So anyway, that's President Benson wrote this, and what I want you to be thinking about as you're reading this pamphlet by President Benson, or this speech by him, is I want you to think of the things you've learned that Bastiat has taught us, okay? Because basically President Benson is restating the same philosophy of Frederick Bastiat, and he actually even quotes him in this speech, in this pamphlet, and basically rephrasing it or reapplying it to our current modern situation. Okay? And I'll send you out a quiz on Wednesday. That's your assignment for this coming week. Now, if I can find it here, I think we may have opportunity to watch a few more minutes of the video that we started last week, you remember, called The Philosophy of Liberty. And let me see what happens if this will work. Somebody says it's downloading it into my computer, and I have 9 minutes, 7 minutes, 6 minutes, 5 minutes remaining. 4 minutes, 3 minutes. What? Question from the peanut gallery. Yes, I will send you 2 files. One is a PDF of the text of President Benson's talk, The Proper Role of Government, and the second one will be the foreword from Butch Otter, and you have to read that foreword from Butch Otter, the governor of the state of Idaho, because there's going to be questions on that on the quiz as well. Okay? All right. We have 1 minute remaining while we're waiting for this Philosophy of Liberty to download, although it only shows it's half done. Anybody else have any questions? Huh?
I missed one question. That would be 85.
One question. Did you do 17 divided by 18? You take the correct answers and divide by 18. The number of correct answers divided by 18. 17 divided by 18 is more than 85. Okay, it's now saying 8 seconds left. 7, 5, 4,
Sure.
1. Don't you love it when it counts down to 1 and stays there for about 10 seconds?
Oh, I hate that.
I know, it's like if you were really 100% done, you'd be done.
Uh-huh.
Well, I am trying to click on the Philosophy of Liberty tab, but it doesn't seem to be working here. Okay, well, rather than wait for this, it seems like it's high probability it's not going to work anyway. I'm going to suspend that presentation until next week. I'm got to take my computer into the repair shop to have it tuned up. And hopefully when we come back next week, it'll be running slicker than new again. So this is going to be the conclusion of our class for today. Anybody have any questions or problems you want to talk about before I say goodbye and good luck? Okay. Thank you for being here today, students. I will see you all next week.
Okay, thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you.